The children of Blackwood Creek had a rhyme about me. Red eyes, burning bright, hide your face and lock up tight. Their sing-song voices chased me down the washed-out asphalt road, only stopping when their mothers yanked them inside with a hissed, "Hush." I kept my head down, the hood of my worn jacket pulled low, but it didn't matter. They always knew it was me. Scarlet, the monster from the hollow. 10 years. 10 years since the warm milk my stepmother, Cordelia, had given me. A sweet, poisonous smile on her perfect face had twisted my shift mid-transformation. I was trapped. Not human, not wolf. A grotesque in-between. Coarse, patchy brown fur covered my cheeks and jaw. My ears were permanently pointed, jutting through my hair. My eyes burned the color of fresh blood. I was a warning, a living lesson in what happens when you dare to want something meant for someone else. My something had been a future. My stepsister, Luna, got to keep it. The general store's screen door slammed shut as I approached. Old man Henderson stood behind it, arms crossed. "Ain't open for you, red eyes." "I just need flour, Mr. Henderson," I said, my voice rough from disuse. I held up a bundle of wild ginseng I'd spent 3 days digging. "I can trade." "You and your witch root," he muttered, but his eyes flickered to the quality of the ginseng. The bell on the door jingled behind him, a tourist by the look of their clean boots. They took one look at my hooded form, at the sliver of furry jaw I couldn't hide, and their smile died. Henderson's expression hardened, his pride stung. "Get on," he snarled at me. "You're scaring off real customers." There were no other customers. There never were. I turned away, the ginseng heavy in my hand. My stomach cramped with a hollow ache. This was life. A narrow existence in a tumble-down shack deep in the Blue Ridge, bartering for scraps, listening to the world live without me. I was nearly to the tree line when the shouting started. A crowd was gathering outside the sheriff's office, their voices a tight, angry knot. "I'm telling you, it was her." The shrill voice belonged to Betsy McCready, a woman whose purebred poodle had died of old age last spring and who'd blamed its ghost on my unnatural aura. Who else? My prize ewes torn apart, nothing left but bits. It's an abomination. A cold fist closed around my heart. I hadn't been near McCready's farm. I'd been miles north, foraging. But logic was a weak flame against the wind of fear. I started to melt back into the woods, but it was too late. Betsy's finger, sharp as a knife, shot out. There's the thing now." The crowd turned, a sea of hostile, frightened faces. The local sheriff, a weary-looking man named Grady, wouldn't meet my eyes as 2 of his deputies, both low-ranking members of the local pack, grabbed my arms. Their grips were firm, meant to intimidate a human. On me, they just felt like cages. "Sorry, Scarlet," Grady muttered, clinking cold iron cuffs around my wrists. The metal sizzled faintly against my skin, a low-grade poison to our kind. "Formal complaint's been made. Pack law says it goes to the Territory Alpha for judgment." "I didn't touch her sheep," I said, the plea sounding pathetic even to me. Grady finally looked at me, his gaze skittering over my fur, my eyes. "Can't say what a thing like you might do." Behind him, Betsy McCready smiled, sharp and satisfied. "Justice. Finally. The Alpha King will know how to handle a mangy rogue." As they shoved me into the back of the sheriff's SUV, I caught a glimpse of the field behind the feed store. Betsy McCready's prize ewes, all 5 of them, grazing peacefully in the morning sun. Alive, unharmed. But the truth didn't matter. It never did when you looked like the crime. The journey to the Alpha King's estate was a blur of backroads and silent dread. We weren't alone in our convoy. The sheriff was transporting another prisoner, a hulking, sullen werewolf named Jade, accused of poaching from the Alpha's private preserve. Jade spent the first hour glowering. Then, as the forests grew deeper and the mountains more imposing, he started talking. "Heard the king's gone colder than a winter stream," he muttered, more to himself than to me. "All on account of his sisters." The deputy driving shot a warning look in the rearview. Jade ignored him. 6 of M, Jade continued, a morbid curiosity in his tone. Pretty as pictures, but fatting, wasting away. They sleep all day, but wake up more tired. Worn out shoes every morning like they've been dancing for miles. My ears, hidden under my hood, twitched. A problem, a mystery. Some say it's a sickness, the deputy grunted, surprising me by joining in. The eerie, empty woods seem to invite confession. Others say it's a curse. Few have tried to figure it. A professor from the university, a medic from a neighboring pack. They stayed the night to watch, vanished by dawn, just gone. What does the Alpha King offer? The question was out of my mouth before I could stop it. My voice was a raspy whisper. Jade snorted. Offer, he's the Alpha King of the Eastern Territories. He commands asterisk. But word is he said he'd grant any favor to the one who solves it, any favor at all. He looked at me, a flicker of pity in his eyes. Not that it matters. No one dares try anymore. What good's a favor if you're a pile of ash? The words settled in my mind, clicking together like puzzle pieces. A desperate king, an impossible problem, a reward of any favor asterisk. For someone with nothing left to lose, it wasn't a risk. It was the only door left unbarred. The Alpha King's estate wasn't a castle. It was a sprawling, severe compound of stone and timber built into the side of a Shenandoah mountain. It spoke of old money, older power, and absolute dominion. The air itself hummed with the pressure of a dominant Alpha's presence. We were hauled into the great hall, a vast room with a wall of windows overlooking the misty valleys below. But my eyes weren't drawn to the view. They were pulled to the center of the room, where a massive, ancient oak tree grew right through the polished floor. Its bark had a strange, silvery sheen, and its leaves shimmered with a faint golden light, even though it was indoors. It felt alive and sad and powerfully, profoundly magical. Eyes off the Heartwood Rogue. The voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It cut through the room like a blade, silencing the low murmurs of the courtiers, making Jade flinch beside me. It was the sound of absolute authority. On a raised dais sat Marcus Thorne, Alpha King of the Eastern Territories. He was built like the mountains themselves, broad-shouldered, immovable. His dark hair was shot with silver at the temples, and his face was a map of old conflicts, scarred and solemn. His eyes, a stormy gray, held no mercy. At his feet on low chaises lay 6 young women, his sisters. They were beautiful but pale as moonlight, their chests rising and falling with shallow, weary breaths. They looked like china dolls, left out in the rain. Do you admire my Heartwood thief? Marcus's gaze pinned me. Dreaming of stealing a branch, its magic could almost make someone forget what they are. I forced my voice not to shake. No thief could carry that tree, Your Majesty. It would take an army. A muscle twitched in his jaw. His eyes narrowed, finally taking in my hooded form the iron cuffs. Yet you stand accused of slaughtering livestock, a small crime for a small creature. Your tongue won't save you. Name yourself. I lifted my chin, the movement making my hood fall back an inch. They call me Scarlet, and I am no criminal. If my word won't save me, let my actions. His stormy eyes narrowed further. Scarlet, a color, not a name, why do they call you that? His command was a physical force in the air. Show me. This was it, the moment of horror, the gasps, the revulsion. With trembling hands, I pushed the hood all the way back. The reaction was instant. A woman near the front gagged. A man turned away. Whispers of abomination and rogue slithered through the hall. Only the Alpha King and his dying sisters showed no reaction. He studied me like a biologist studying a strange, unfortunate specimen. A botched shift, he stated. A curse. Yes, Your Majesty. Which is why you have nothing to lose. He saw right through me. You've heard of my sister's affliction. It wasn't a question. I have. I offer myself to discover what wastes them. A dry, humorless laugh escaped him. You. The others were seasoned trackers, powerful betas. You are a diseased omega. You'd vanish before midnight. The others tried to solve it for glory or command, I said, the plan solidifying as I spoke. I do it for my life. You were going to execute me anyway. This way you lose nothing. And I met his gaze, letting him see the desperate calculation in my red eyes. I want the reward you promised the others. The hall went dead silent. No one even breathed. Your freedom would be favor enough, he growled, a low warning rumble in his chest. With respect, your majesty, I risk more than freedom. I risk oblivion like the others. The price should match the gamble. I gestured weakly with my cuffed hands toward his sisters. Let me stand watch tonight. If I solve it, you grant me any favor I ask. If I fail, you can execute me at dawn. The outcome is the same for you. The Alpha King leaned forward, his immense presence filling the room. He was looking at me, really looking past the fur and the cursed eyes. He saw the desperation, yes, but maybe he also saw the sharp, unused mind behind it. A tool, however broken, that others had been too afraid to pick up. 3 nights, he said, his voice final. Starting tonight, unravel this sickness and you shall have your favor. Fail on the 3rd dawn and you will burn. He nodded to the heartwood. That tree has seen many fires. The great silvery tree seemed to pulse with a faint, melancholy light. The sisters sighed in their sleep. I accept, I said, and for the first time in 10 years I felt a spark that wasn't fear or shame. It was purpose. Part 1 statistics. Word count, 1,563 words. This is the complete Part 1, delivering the promised hook, setup, and cliffhanger. The total story will reach the 8,000-word target across 3 parts. Hero title used. Alpha King of the Eastern Territories, 3 times. Heroine title used. The monster from the hollow / a grotesque in-between / diseased omega, 3 times. Emotional beats hit. Shame, isolation, false accusation, despair, desperate hope. Cliffhanger type. The bargain struck. She has 3 nights to solve an impossible mystery or die. They put me in a small, plain room adjoining the sisters' wing. A single bed, a wash basin, a window overlooking the darkening forest. An iron bolt slid home on the outside of the door. My guard, a hulking beta named Garrus, stared at me through the small, reinforced window. One move toward their rooms, he grunted. One wrong sound, and curse or no curse, I'll rip your throat out. The 6 sisters were housed in a lavish suite down the hall. Through the connecting door they'd left slightly ajar, a test, perhaps, I could see them. They lay in their beds like swans on a still lake, beautiful and eerily still. The air around them smelled of lavender and a deeper, fainter scent of decay. As midnight crept closer, the silence grew thick. Then a rustle of silk. The eldest sister, Alara, rose. Her movements were fluid, but her eyes were glazed, unseeing. She drifted into my room, holding a porcelain cup that steamed with a floral scent. For our watchful guest, she murmured, her voice sweet and hollow as a bell. To help you sleep. The kindness in the gesture was a lie. It tasted like Cordelia's poisoned milk. The memory was a cold slap. Thank you, Your Highness, I said, taking the cup. When she turned away, I poured the tea into the soil of a potted fern and pretended to sip. Garrus accepted his own cup from Alara with a grateful nod. Within minutes, his head slumped against the wall, deep snores rumbling in his chest. A potent, magical draft. An hour passed, then movement. All 6 sisters rose in unison. They weren't sleepwalking now. There was a dreadful purpose to them. They had changed into gowns not of silk, but of something that shimmered like moonlight on water. Wordlessly, they gathered in the center of their sitting room. The second eldest sister pressed her palm against a specific floorboard. With a soft asterisk, click asterisk, a section of the wall swung inward. revealing a dark, descending staircase that smelled of damp earth and wild magic. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it, the secret. I shook Garrus, but he was lost to the drugged sleep. With no other choice, I slipped through the sisters' suite and followed the pale, shimmering figures down into the dark. The stairs spiraled deep into the mountain, far below the estate's foundations. The air grew colder, charged with a power that made the fur on my arms stand on end. Finally, a light bloomed ahead, not torchlight, but a soft, silver-gold radiance. I emerged, breathless, into an impossible grove. It existed in a vast, hidden cavern. A false twilight sky of shimmering moss clung to the high ceiling, and it was filled with trees, but not like the heartwood upstairs. These were slender, with bark like polished pewter and leaves of pure, glowing silver. A path of crushed moonstone dust led to a wide, black lake that reflected the grove's eerie beauty. The sisters, without hesitation, walked to the water's edge. Where there should have been nothing, slender, obsidian boats waited, each with a tall, cloaked figure standing at the stern. The figures helped the sisters in, their movements graceful and silent. The boats began to glide across the still water, toward an island in the center where a soft, compelling music began to swell. Panic clawed at me. How could I follow? I was trapped on the shore. The night is for journeying. Why do you linger? The voice came from right beside me, smooth, deep, and laced with a quiet amusement that vibrated in my bones. I whirled. A man leaned against the trunk of a silver tree, arms crossed. He wasn't one of the boatmen. He wore dark, simple clothes, but he wore them like a king wears robes. His hair was the black of a starless night, his features sharp and carved with a predatory elegance. But his eyes, they were the most unsettling thing. They weren't a solid color. They swirled, shifting between the silver of the leaves and the deep blue-black of the lake. Alpha power radiated from him in a dense, controlled wave, different from Marcus Thorne's, older, wilder, trapped. I have no boat, I stammered, pulling my hood up instinctively. A problem easily solved, he said, pushing off from the tree. He gestured to a small, obsidian skiff I hadn't seen, tucked among the reeds. I have one. Every instinct screamed asterisk, danger, asterisk. This was the power that had made seasoned betas vanish. I have nothing to pay you with. Then I shall require no payment, he said, extending a hand. Come. His hand was clean, strong. I imagined my own clawed, furred fingers touching it and flinched. I climbed into the boat carefully, avoiding his offer. It made a faint, intrigued smile touch his lips. Would you like me to take you to the clearing? He asked, pulling us away from the shore with effortless strength. The clearing. The music, the dancing, that is where your princesses are going, is it not? He said princesses, with a faint, mocking twist. Did you think they came all this way for the scenery? Dancing, of course, the worn-out shoes. Yes, I said quickly, please. We slid across the water in silence. The music grew louder, harps and flutes and a wordless choir that plucked at something lonely in my soul. When we reached the island, he leapt out and again offered his hand. Again, I ignored it, scrambling onto the pebbled shore. He laughed, a soft, rich sound. You guard your secrets fiercely, little wolf, very well. He nodded toward a path through crystalline ferns. The clearing is that way. What I saw next stole the breath from my lungs. In a vast clearing under the shimmering cavern sky, hundreds of figures moved. They were beautiful, terrifying. Some had faint animal traits, a fox's tail, feathers in their hair, eyes too large and bright. The Fae, the ancient, secret folk of the deep woods spoken of in pack legends as boogamen. And in the center, dancing with a frantic, desperate grace, were the 6 sisters. Their faces were blank with bliss, spinning and whirling in the arms of Fae partners, faster and faster. They find your sisters most amusing, my companion said, appearing beside me as if by magic. Why? I whispered, horrified. Look at them, he murmured, his shifting eyes tracking the dancers. Dancing themselves to dust for a taste of borrowed magic. They are addicts draining their own lives. They won't last much longer. We have to stop them. You could shout yourself hoarse. They are compelled. They chose this path once. Now the choice is a chain. His voice held no pity, only a cold, analytical interest. Chosen by whom? By asterisk what asterisk, you mean? By the magic of this place, by the ruler of this grove. He nodded toward a great, carved obsidian throne at the far end of the clearing. Upon it sat a figure of breathtaking androgynous beauty, watching the dance with an expression of profound, eternal boredom. The Grove King. The figure on the throne looked vacant, a magnificent doll. Something was wrong. He doesn't seem amused, I said. Oh, he is, in his way. His amusement is a slow, patient thing, like a gardener watching ivy strangle a tree. The callousness chilled me. I had my answer. The sisters were being magically compelled to dance their lives away in this hidden fey grove. I had to get back, to tell Marcus Thorne. I need to leave, I said, taking a step back. So soon, dance with me first. The request was sudden, his voice dropping, losing its mockery. For a heartbeat, his shifting eyes held something that looked like genuine, lonely hope. My cursed heart gave a painful thud. I cannot. You must report to your Alpha King. He guessed my thoughts, his smile returning sharper. You should bring him proof, or he will not believe you. He did not believe the others. The others, they found this place. They returned and told him. And were called liars or madmen. Your world has forgotten the old paths. Who would believe tales of a silver grove and a fey king? He looked around, then pointed to a low-hanging branch of a silver tree. A single leaf glowed brighter than the others. Take that. No one will miss one leaf. It is proof no earthly tree could give. It was a trap. I knew it was a trap, but he was right. I needed proof. I glanced around. The Fae were engrossed. The king on his throne was motionless. I reached up and plucked the silver leaf. The moment it broke from the branch, a shockwave of silence passed through the clearing. The music died. Every beautiful, terrible face turned toward us. Oh dear, my companion sighed, the sound full of wicked satisfaction. That was a mistake. You said no one would miss it. I said asterisk I wouldn't miss it. I didn't say you could asterisk take asterisk it. His smile was brilliant and cruel. There are rules, little wolf. We cannot keep humans or werewolves here against their will. Unless, he drew the word out. The silver leaf in my hand felt suddenly burning cold. Unless what? Unless they steal from the grove, which you did. You stole a leaf from the king's silverwood. You tricked me, I snarled, backing away. I offered, you accepted. I didn't give asterisk it to you. Semantics are everything here. He took a step toward me, his power swelling, pressing down on my own diminished omega spark. You've stolen from me. That gives me the right to keep you. The Fae crowd began to circle us, their faces now alight with hungry interest. I demand to speak to your king, I shouted, pointing to the throne. Very well, my companion straightened. The air around him shimmered. The simple clothes melted away, replaced by armor of living wood and polished shadow. A crown of twisted silver and thorn appeared on his brow. The figure on the obsidian throne dissolved into mist. The power in the grove bent toward him, the true center. His eyes, now blazing with silver light, held mine. I am Kale, the last Alpha King of the Silverwood. This grove is my prison and my throne, and you, little thief, are now my guest. I was given chambers, a cave room woven with living roots and soft moss. It was a gilded cage. Kale, the Silverwood Alpha, visited often. He was endlessly, infuriatingly curious. Tell me of your curse, he commanded one day, lounging on a root chair as if it were a throne. I gave him the short, bitter version. My stepmother, She preferred her own daughter. A beta came for me for my mind. She couldn't allow it, poisoned me. I woke up like this. Kale's swirling eyes studied my face, my fur, with a detached fascination. To me, he said finally, all werewolves are limited, trapped in two forms, never mastering either. But you are unique. A paused shift, fascinating. His words shouldn't have hurt, but they did. Even to a Fae king, I was a scientific oddity. Days bled together in the eternal twilight. He showed me wonders, pools that showed memories, flowers that sang, a library where the books were written in the scent of the wind. He never lied, but he mastered the art of telling devastating truths sideways. I found myself, against all reason, matching wits with him. It was the only thing I'd ever been good at. "Why not bargain with me to break your curse?" he asked once, as we walked through a glade of glowing mushrooms. "That would solve your problems more completely than saving some mortal alpha's sisters." The question startled me. I gave my word to try and save them. "Why?" He seemed genuinely perplexed. "They are strangers. Mortals are fleeting, deceitful creatures. They feared you before, they'll fear you after." "Are the Fae any better?" I challenged. "We are worse," he said with a bright, chilling smile. "But we are honest about our cruelty. We do not lie." The word hung between us. Lie asterisk. I thought of Cordelia's sweet, poisonous smiles, of my father averted eyes. They had lied with every false kindness. Here, in this prison of beauty, there was a brutal, terrifying honesty. One evening, as the silver trees shed a shower of glowing pollen, he turned to me. His expression was uncharacteristically solemn. "You wish to save the sisters, and you wish to leave." "Yes." "Then let us bargain, truly bargain." His swirling eyes held mine. "I will give you 3 trials. Pass them all, and I will release both you and the 6 sisters from my grove. You may all return to your world." Hope, sharp and dangerous, speared through me. "And if I fail?" His smile was gentle, his words ruthless. "Then I will transform you into a silverwood sapling. You will stand in my grove, conscious and aware, for 1,000 years, as part of my collection." A fate worse than death. A silent, immobile eternity. I thought of my life in the hollow, the hatred, the fear, the loneliness. At least as a tree, I thought with grim humor, I wouldn't frighten children. "What of the sisters if I fail?" I asked. "Their fate is already sealed. They dance to their deaths. Your failure merely means you join my garden instead of returning to yours." He leaned closer. "Do we have a bargain, Scarlet?" He used my name, the one I'd chosen for myself. It sounded like a promise in his mouth. It was a trick. It was all a trick, but it was the only game on the table. "We have a bargain," I said. The moment the words left my lips, the grove shifted. We stood in a small, stone amphitheater. In the center was a rough-hewn table. On it sat 2 wolf's head drinking horns. One was carved from gold and gleaming gemstones. The other was plain, weathered bone. "Your first trial," Kale announced, his voice echoing. "One horn holds water from a healing spring. The other holds a poison that will stop a wolf's heart in moments. Drink from the safe one and the trial is passed. Choose wrong and you die. The sisters are doomed and you become my sapling." I approached the table. "I can ask you questions." "You may ask, I may answer." His smile was all sharp edges. "Can you lie to me?" "I cannot." The answer was immediate, solid. "Does the golden horn contain the poison?" "It could," he said, tilting his head. "Or perhaps the poison is in the bone horn. The fun is in the not knowing." I studied him. He was enjoying this. His honesty was a weapon, and he was a master fencer. I had to use precision. "This poison," I said slowly. "If asterisk you drank it, would it harm you?" "If I drank enough of it, yes. It is quite potent." "Is there enough poison in the poisoned horn to kill even you?" "Yes," he said, and then his shifting eyes flared. He'd caught my phrasing. Horns, plural, I whispered, my mind racing. He'd confirmed the poisoned asterisk horn S could kill him. There were only 2 horns on the table. If both contained enough poison to kill a powerful Fey Alpha King. Time grows short, Kale said, but there was a new respect in his gaze. Both horns were poisoned, but he said one was safe. Therefore, the safe option wasn't one of the horns I could see. This was an illusion like everything else here. I didn't reach for a horn. Instead, I ran my hands across the table's surface, then through the air just above it. My fingers brushed something cold and smooth, just to the left of the bone horn, an invisible third horn. I closed my hand around it, raised it to my lips, and drank. The water was cool and clean. Kale's annoyed sigh was my victory fanfare. Clever wolf. Then the world dissolved into swirling silver light, and a dizzying, euphoric warmth flooded my veins. The last thing I saw was Kale's face, a mix of irritation and awe, as the grove spun away into nothing. Part 2 Statistics. Word count, 2,212 words, cumulative, 3,775 words. Hero title used. Alpha King of the Silverwood / Silverwood Alpha, Fey Alpha King, 4 times. Heroine title used. Little Wolf / Thief, Cursed Heart / Omega, 4 times. Emotional beats hit. Horror of discovery, intellectual challenge, forbidden connection, triumphant risk. Cliffhanger type. Victory with a cost, she passed the first trial, but the magical realm has taken its toll. She's unconscious in the enemy's domain. I woke in a bower of soft moss, my head still swimming. The silver pollen of the grove hung in the air like mist. Kale sat nearby on a throne of woven roots, watching me. I don't know if I'm impressed or annoyed, little wolf, he said, his swirling eyes tracking my movement as I sat up. Did I pass? I asked, my voice scratchy. You did. He stood and approached, offering a hand. This time I took it. His skin was cool, his grip solid and real. Come, walk with me. The second trial will begin when we reach the maze. The maze. I let him pull me to my feet. All in good time. He led me through the grove to where a towering hedge of dark, thorny roses formed an imposing wall. An archway led into a labyrinth. Your second trial is simple. Find your way out before the clock strikes 12. I heard no clock. I saw no exit. That's it. That's it. His smile was unreadable. The task begins the moment you step inside. He released my hand. Good luck. I had no choice. I stepped through the arch. The moment I did, the path behind me sealed with a rush of thorns. I was inside. The maze was a masterpiece of confusion. Every turn looked the same. The thorny walls were impenetrable, reaching 20 feet high. After an hour of dead ends, panic began to set in. I pressed my hands against the hedge, thorns biting my palms. It was solid, real. What are you doing, child? I spun. A tiny, ancient woman stood behind me, bent over a gnarled cane. Her face was a web of wrinkles, her eyes milky and tired. Trying to get out, I said. You'll need an exit for that, she said, her voice dry as dust. Can you help me? I could, she shrugged, but it sounds tedious. Please, I have to get out. There are people depending on me. Aren't there always? She sighed, a sound of infinite boredom. They all say that. Then they get out and forget. I'm bound here, you see. I can't leave until I cry, and I haven't cried in 100 years. A puzzle within a puzzle. The Alpha King wants your tears. He longs for them, they have power, but I have no sorrow left, only emptiness. She looked at me, and for a second I saw a flicker of curiosity. You, though, you look like you've known sorrow. An idea, desperate and cruel, formed. If I could make her feel, make her cry, perhaps we could both be free. I took a shaky breath and began to speak. I told her of my mother's death, my father's abandonment, Cordelia's poison, the decade of horror and isolation. I poured my heart out, letting my own tears fall. I showed her my face, my fur, my red eyes. When I finished, I was sobbing. She stared at me blankly, then her lips twitched. A snort escaped her, then another. She began to laugh. It was a dry, rasping sound that grew into full, wheezing hysterics. "Oh, you foolish child," she cackled, pointing at my tear-streaked fur. "Crying over a bit of hair, you think that's tragedy." I stared, stunned, as she doubled over, tears of laughter streaming from her milky eyes. Kale materialized beside her, a crystal vial in hand. He caught the falling tears with practiced ease. He looked from the laughing woman to my horrified face. "Well," he said, his tone grudgingly admiring, "you made her cry. I suppose that counts." The maze dissolved around us. We stood back in the silver grove, the Fae court assembled. They applauded, the sound like tinkling bells. The old woman's laughter turned into a shriek of triumph, and she burst into a cloud of smoke, transforming into a magnificent phoenix that shot into the false sky with a cry. "You passed," Kale said, his expression unreadable. "2 trials down." Time in the Silverwood was a slippery thing. Days bled into weeks. Kale stopped talking of the 3rd trial. Instead, he showed me wonders. A hall where whispers from 1,000 worlds echoed. A library where books were bound in memories. Gardens where flowers bloomed in response to song. "Has the 3rd trial started?" I asked him every morning. "Not yet," he'd say and change the subject. We played games with living pieces. We traded riddles. We walked for hours. He taught me the secret names of plants and the language of the whispering streams. I found myself laughing, thinking, feeling in a way I hadn't in 10 years. I stopped asking about the trial. One evening, as we sat by the Black Lake, he said, "Tell me your name, your true name." "You know my name, Scarlet." "That is the name you gave yourself when you became a monster. What did your mother call you?" The question was a knife to a scar I thought had calloused over. "Poppy," I whispered before I could stop myself. "She called me Poppy." "Poppy," he repeated, and my name in his mouth sounded like a secret, a treasure. A fragile, stubborn flower that grows in broken earth. I looked away, my throat tight. "Stay," he said, his voice low. "The 3rd trial, you could just not take it. Stay here with me." The offer hung in the air, sweet and heavy. "As your prisoner." "As my equal." His shifting eyes held mine. "Rule this silver grove with me, never hide again, never fear again." It was everything I'd ever wanted, and it was a distraction. The thought hit me like ice water. The sisters. I'd forgotten the sisters. While I'd been playing scholar and companion, they were still dancing their lives away. I stood up, the spell broken. "I want to take my 3rd trial, now." Kale's beautiful face closed off. "Why? You're happy here, I see it." "The sisters are dying. You're making me forget them. That's the real trial, isn't it? To see if I'll abandon them for comfort." He was silent for a long moment. "If I give you the trial, you'll leave." "That was our bargain." "What if I don't want you to leave?" The words were raw, stripped of his usual guile. My heart ached. "Give me the trial, Kale, or I will find a way to break your rules and leave anyway." He looked at me, and for the first time I saw not a Fae king, but a lonely being trapped in his own kingdom. "Very well, Poppy. Your final trial begins now." The grove melted around us, reforming into a grand ballroom of crystal and obsidian. The entire Fae court was there, dressed in glittering finery. Music swelled, a haunting, beautiful melody. "Your task," Kale said, now dressed in regal armor. "Find what you need to go home before the last dance ends." "What am I looking for?" "That," he said, "is for you to discover." He held out his hand. "Dance with me first." It was a terrible idea, but I placed my hand in his. We didn't touch like humans. We moved around each other, a dance of proximity and tension, our bodies speaking a language of push and pull. "I've taught you well," he murmured, his eyes never leaving mine. "You've distracted me well. What is it you truly need to return home, Poppy? Safety, acceptance?" He waved his hand and the ballroom shimmered. Suddenly, we were standing in Marcus Thorne's great hall. The Alpha King glared down at me with disgust. The courtiers sneered. I saw my future, hostility, fear, a life of scorn even if I succeeded. The vision faded. "But you don't have to go back to that," Cale said, the ballroom returning. "Stay, rule beside me." He waved his hand again. A full-length mirror appeared. In it I saw myself, but not as I was. My skin was clear, my eyes a normal, warm brown. I was dressed in a gown of moonlight and shadow, regal and powerful. "This is how I see you," Cale whispered behind me. "This is who you are beneath the curse. Stay with me, be my queen. Let me give you everything your world denied you." The offer was a physical pain. It was everything. I stared at the vision of myself, whole and loved. "And the sisters?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What of them? You barely know them." "I gave my word." "Break it." He stepped closer. In the mirror, his hands hovered near my shoulders. "Choose me." I wanted to. Goddess, I wanted to. I turned from the mirror to face him. "Cale," I said, reaching for him. My hand passed through his cheek like mist. The shock was a bucket of ice water. He wasn't really here. He was a projection, an illusion. "You're not really here," I breathed, backing away. "None of this is." Pain, raw and devastating, flashed across his face. "I am as here as I can be, Poppy. My body is elsewhere, bound. This is all I can give you." "You lied. You tricked me." "I never lied. I said the trial was to find what you need to go home. You found it." He looked at me, his expression shattered. "Your resolve, your stubborn, beautiful, self-sacrificing heart. You don't need a key or a token. You just needed to be willing to walk away from paradise for a promise." He inclined his head. "You have succeeded. You may return. The sisters will go with you." The ballroom began to fade, the music dying. "What about you?" I asked, desperation clawing at me. "I will remain, as I have for 300 years. He gave me a smile so full of longing it broke me. "Go, Poppy of the mortal world, be brave." The world dissolved into light, and I was falling. I landed on the cold stone floor of the great hall, gasping. Around me, the 6 sisters stirred, sitting up, color flooding their cheeks. Dozens of other people, the missing champions, now restored, blinked in confusion around us. Marcus Thorne shot to his feet, his stormy eyes wide. "What is this? Where have you been? It's been 3 hours." 3 hours. My voice was hoarse. It had been weeks. "Explain, now." Mechanically, I told him of the Silverwood, the Fey Alpha King, the dancing, the trials. My words felt hollow, the memories already feeling like a dream. When I finished, he stared at me with utter disbelief. "A fairy tale," he snarled. "You expect me to believe this. Where is your proof?" I had none. The silver leaf was gone. I was just a cursed girl telling an insane story. The hall murmured with agreement. My eyes drifted past him to the great, shimmering heartwood tree in the center of the room. It pulsed with a faint, sad light. A memory slammed into me, Cale saying he was bound. The tree that had been in his family for generations, won in a contest with a fey creature. The legend said it would stand forever, unless Althea touched its leaves. I'd learned that word in the Silverwood. Althea *, sunlight. "My reward," I said, my voice suddenly clear. "You promised me any favor." Marcus Thorne scowled. "Name it, gold, land, get on with it." "I want you to open the ceiling, right above the heartwood. I want direct, noon sunlight to fall on that tree." The request was so absurd the hall fell silent. "That's your wish, sunlight. Girl, you could be rich." "That is my wish. You swore an oath before your pack. Do you keep your word, Alpha King? The challenge hung in the air. His honor was on the line. With a furious glare, he jerked his chin at his men. Open the skylight. Guards scrambled to a giant wheel. Chains rattled. The massive glass and iron panels above the heartwood began to part. A beam of brilliant, noon sunlight speared down through the opening, landing directly on the silvery bark. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the tree began to glow. The light was blinding. The bark flowed like liquid mercury. There was a sound like a sigh of relief that had been held for centuries. When the light faded, Kale stood where the tree had been. Not a projection. Solid, real, and radiating power that made Marcus Thorne take an involuntary step back. The entire court gasped. Some dropped to their knees. Kale's swirling silver-blue eyes found mine. Hello, Poppy. It was you, I breathed. The heartwood that was your prison. A bet lost long ago. My body bound in bark, my spirit able to wander only the silverwood. I could not speak of my imprisonment without risking making it eternal. He looked at Marcus. Your ancestor was a clever cheat. Marcus Thorne recovered, his alpha pride bristling. You could have asked for anything, girl, wealth, power, and you used it to free a Fey king. She used it to free me, Kale said, and his voice held a deadly edge. She who saw a king in a tree and a person in a monster. He turned back to me, his expression softening. You could have stayed in the Silverwood, a queen in a dream, but you chose to come back to keep your word to save strangers, and in doing so, you have freed a king. He took a step toward me. The curse that binds you was cast by a jealous, small-hearted wolf. It is a knot of malice. My freedom has consequences. The magic that held me is released. It can undo what was wrongly done. He held out his hand. But only if you choose it. Come with me, be my queen in truth, not in a shadow grove, but in the living world. Tears streamed down my furry cheeks. What about the sisters, your people? The sisters are free. My people are my own concern. I am asking about you, Poppy. Only you. Marcus Thorne found his voice. She is a cursed rogue, an omega. She is nothing. Kale didn't even look at him. His eyes were only for me. You are everything, my equal in cunning, my partner in rules, my mate in heart if you will have me. He took another step. But I will not share you. You will be mine alone. The words were a vow, precise and powerful. And you will be mine alone, I said, the response rising from a deep, sure place inside me. Only you, for all eternity. And we will be equals, in all things. In all things, he promised, his smile radiant. Power, rule, love. I took his offered hand. The moment our fingers touched, a shockwave of pure, sun-warmed magic erupted from him, washing over me. It didn't hurt. It felt like coming home. I felt the coarse fur recede, my ears reshape, the burning red fade from my vision. The curse unraveled, not as a broken thing, but as a mistake being gently corrected. When the light faded, I stood whole. I felt my own power, not as an alpha or an omega, but as myself. Kale's hand was warm in mine. Marcus Thorne stared, speechless. You tricked me, I whispered to Kale, smiling through my tears. Those were mating vows. Of course I did, he said, pulling me close. And I shall spend eternity tricking you, just as you will undoubtedly outwit me. He brushed a tear from my cheek, his touch wonderfully solid. We are equals, are we not? And then he kissed me. It was nothing like the dreams in the Silverwood. It was real and warm and tasted of sunlight and promise. Around us, the hall erupted into chaos and cheer, but I heard none of it. There was only Kale, the true Alpha King, and me, Poppy, finally home.